Hello everyone, welcome back at my next video. And well, I got a demand and requirement again about passive voice. Well, this type of the grammar is rather complicated, I would say, because in many languages, and especially Indo-European languages, we don't use it much. Like passive voice is a little bit like we use it here and there in some literature, in poetry maybe, but not really like in everyday conversation, and we use primarily active voice. Sentences written in the active voice are easier to understand than sentences written in the passive voice, but English has a sort of specialty that they use it quite often, and when, well, they use it in situations when the agent is not known, so it means the subject of the sentence, who is doing something, or is not important, or is silent, we just don't know, or actually is unknown, so we don't know who is doing it, or just not important. So these are the situations when actually we focus or we put our emphasis on the object of the sentence. So what is being done? Yes, for instance, now I used already the passive voice. Well, in this lesson I would like to focus on present simple, past simple, present perfect, and future simple, let's say. And these tenses are quite often used also in passive voices, passive forms. And as I said, like you can always say it also in active voice, but sometimes in some situations it's not necessary, and you just use this passive voice, which is very, very useful to say in some situations. Even though, like when you are writing a text, linguists, English actually, grammar experts and linguists say, avoid to use it very often. Like passive voice doesn't mean that every other sentence will be in passive. Use it appropriately and properly in some situations. Don't use it all the time. It's not overwhelming. And everything what is overwhelming and it's too much, of course, then it creates sort of like a little bit even funny, ridiculous situations. So let's say, for instance, I prepared for you the example, and the example will be keep. Keep, and keep in different actually constructions. So first I'm going to tell you sentences in correct technically in these constructions, and when to use it. As I said, we use it in some situations, not all the time. Simple present of keep is keep, and passive voice is actually is kept. So you actually technically conjugate to be, and then you say this third column of irregular verbs especially, but basically past participle, is kept. So actively we can say the sentence, I keep the butter in the fridge. I keep the butter in the fridge, like all of us basically. But how would we say this sentence in the passive equivalent or passive voice? The butter is kept in the fridge. Why? Like, I think that a lot of British or American native speakers would use this passive sentence more or rather than the active in this particular situation. Why? Because it's not important that we or they or he or she. It's important that the butter is kept in the fridge. So usually, yes, because otherwise it would melt or it would actually get rotten or anything else. So the butter is kept in the fridge. That's a correct present simple use of the passive voice. Then simple past, so in the past form, it is again actually kept. So this kept, we use it in all the other actually tenses, because kept is this past participle. But in a past simple we use was kept. Of course, we have to conjugate to be in the past form. So for instance, actively we can say, Mary kept her schedule meticulously. Meticulously, specific words, check it out or look it up in the dictionaries. Mary kept her schedule meticulously. So it means actively, yes, she kept her schedule. But how to transform it to passive? Mary's schedule was kept meticulously. So it means that we just actually put Mary into the like ownership of this. So Mary's schedule, and then we use the past simple in the passive voice, was kept meticulously. Then the next one is present perfect, which is complicated in all the actually sort of forms or whatever present perfect, because many languages just don't have this tense. But present perfect is actually in the active voice, have kept. And in the passive voice, it is actually, we have to put there something extra, because passively we have to actually have been kept. So have kept, active, have been kept. This been indicates that it's actually just passive, that the agent of the or the subject of this whole sentence is actually silent, passive, or we can add something at the end. So for instance, active sentence is, I have kept all your old letters. So I informed my friend, or I informed my ex-lover or ex-husband, ex-partner, I have kept all your old letters, or anybody else. So this is actively, I have kept. But if I or some agent or the subject of the sentence is not actually important, then we can switch to passive voice, and that means all your old letters have been kept, because these letters are not actively doing anything. They have been kept. All right? All your old letters have been kept. So this is this passive. This agent or who actually did it is silent. It's not important. Just we don't know. The next one is simple future, which I would like to actually concentrate. There are all the other tenses. It's also possible to use passive voice, but I think in these four we use it primarily and very often. Simple future, we all know that actively we form it with the modal or auxiliary verb will, and then we use the base verb will keep. But be careful, in active voice, we have to put there something extra, because actively it's different, of course. So will keep, we will keep, he will keep, she will keep. It is easy. But in a passive tone, it is will be kept. So there we use this be, so we put there actually sort of like modal auxiliary verb after the modal auxiliary verb, will be kept, because be has this kind of function here. And for instance, in simple future, the active sentence is Mark will keep this ficus, or the focus. Mark will keep the ficus. So it means that actively he will keep it. But if we want to actually say it in passive tone, then of course much more important is that it will be kept. So for the future, yeah. So the ficus will be kept. So we don't care who is going to keep it. We don't care of the agent. We don't care of this active subject. We just care that it will be kept, and anything else. What is actually very interesting is that they use it, as I said, in particular situations. It's not all the time. Don't use it overwhelmingly a lot, but you have to know this grammar. You have to know how to use it. So when you hear somewhere was or been or is kept, so to be or have been in the present perfect tense, or will be, and then you use past participle, you know and you understand that this is actually passive voice. And as I said, it's used when we just don't care who did it, or it's silent or unknown, and we can still actually add at the end by. For instance, I can say the sentence, the skyscrapers have been built since 19th century in the USA by workers. So it is by who did it. It can be added at the end by workers, or by foreign workers, or by immigrants. Yeah. So, but actually, the main point is the skyscrapers have been built, and they are still building. That's why we use actually present perfect. So they are being built still, but they have been built, and can check it out. Being built. So the skyscrapers are not actively doing anything. It's not active agent. The skyscrapers have been built, so it's a passive voice, and passively they have been built. Yeah. Hopefully I just a little bit explain you and clarify you and make it a little bit clear what's going on in passive voice. I can prepare another actually video, but I think this one with these kind of examples, it's quite clear and you can get it. Thank you very much. See you next time.